Joining us now is Ed Lazear. He is former economic advisor to George W. Bush. Ed, good to see you. Welcome back to the program.
Nice to see you, Maria. They must be working you too hard there. I haven't seen you much out here.
Well, I haven't been out there, you're right, but I'm going to be coming soon. And in the meantime, you got to come back to New York and join us on set. Ed, we got to get your take on the field, okay? Go through Donald Trump's policies and compare them to the others, in particular Bernie Sanders with his $18 trillion in spending.
Well, it's difficult to compare Donald Trump's policies to anyone's right now because he hasn't really spelled them out. In fact, the only candidate that has really given us a detailed tax plan is Jeb Bush. He unveiled his last week, as you know, and it was a pretty specific plan. And actually, I think you could compare that to what Bernie Sanders is saying and what some of the other candidates are saying. So the thing I like about Jeb's plan in particular, and perhaps Mr. Trump will come out with the same thing in the future, is the focus on investment. To me, that's the most important component. In listening to your discussion just a few minutes earlier about the anemic recovery, I think the key thing here is we have not had significant capital expenditure during this recovery. And to my mind, that's in large part a result of the taxes that we face on investment and on corporations. So I think that the biggest thing that we see in this plan, in Jeb's plan, and also to some extent in the plan that Marco Rubio unveiled a bit earlier, is the fact that investment will not be taxed or will be taxed at a significantly lower rate. You
didn't mention, by the way, that Hillary Clinton wants to double capital gains taxes. There's that, Keith McCullough.
Well, unfortunately, that goes in the wrong way. It's got two bad features. First of all, it definitely will discourage investment. We certainly don't want to be doing that right now. That's exactly the wrong thing to do in terms of economic growth. And but the second thing is, I don't even think it'll work. I mean, even if you thought it was a good idea, the problem is, she's focusing on short-run versus long-run strategies by corporations. And, since people's investments are staggered at any point in time in the market, there are many people who are going to be coming due to turn their capital over. And what that means is that the trading, which affects market prices, the holders, not the holders don't affect market prices, traders affect market prices. So there's going to be plenty of action out there. So it doesn't even stand a chance of working, even if you like the plan in the first place. So I think it's just definitely a step in the wrong direction. I think most of the Republicans, obviously I worked for a Republican administration, so I can't claim to be completely unbiased, but I think most of the Republicans right now are pointing in the right direction on growth, and I do like the specifics in Jeb's plan in particular.
Ed, it's Keith. That's a great recap of how that bottom-up mandating of minimum wage isn't going to work, never has worked. But if you look at the top-down message embedded in what Trump had to say, didn't that have the chance to smack of socialism? Like what he's talking about, I'm going to fix your income. The day before, he's talking about how executives are getting paid too much. Is he talking about wealth transfer down the line, or is he actually talking about growth?
Well, again, I think Mr. Trump hasn't been specific enough yet for us to evaluate what his plan will be. The one thing I am concerned about in the things that I have heard from Mr. Trump is that he does tend to have a somewhat populist bent in the discussion. As you point out, the kinds of things that he's talking about are things that seem to appeal to a general audience. What you really want in a candidate, and in a president in particular, is someone who has a rudder that is not going to be going all over the place. When we think of the strong presidents, they are presidents who had a particular viewpoint, sometimes perhaps an ideological viewpoint, but that ideological viewpoint guides them when they come to decisions that they have to make along the way. And you want someone with a strong focus. Up to this point, again, without being too critical of any one candidate, I have not yet seen that focus from Mr. Trump.
By the way, Bernie Sanders, John Bussey's Wall Street Journal today, price tag of Sanders' proposals, $18 trillion. What is he spending all that money on, John Bussey?
Laura Meckler has a good story on this in the Journal today. He's spending it on everything, right? So it's not just an expansion of entitlement programs, but it's on things that Republicans can get behind, too, which is like more highways and infrastructure. Our infrastructure is slowly but surely degrading.
Larry Summers wants that.
Everybody's complaining about that. On college education, on a variety of sort of things that I think a lot of Americans would say, yeah, that makes that makes sense. The problem is it's $18 trillion over several years.
It's probably everything and more if it's $18 trillion.
And it's $6.5 trillion in tax increases over 10 years that he's already articulated.
Well, he wants 90% tax rates. Isn't that right, Sandra? Bernie Sanders has been saying he's going to charge 90% tax rates.
So, Ed, my question to you is, you've obviously disclosed your bias, as we all know, but I would challenge you then, if you like Jeb Bush's plan on the economy, you like Jeb Bush's plan as far as taxes are concerned, now that he's laid those out, why does he continue to lose ground in the polls?
Well, you know, I think I'm not really the guy that you should go to for political analysis. I have plenty of colleagues who are superior at that to me. But I would say,
what does your gut tell you?
Well, you know, my gut is that Jeb has focused on substance, as have some others. And, you know, again, I don't want to single him out, but I think he has focused on substance, and the substance, which will be important, I think, later in the campaign, and certainly when it gets narrowed down to the Democrat versus the Republican, it certainly doesn't get the headlines. I mean, it's obvious, you know, to you, you're in the business, you see how many headlines Mr. Trump has gotten over the past few months, and it's quite clear that even Jeb, when he rolled out what, you know, was this dramatic plan, really the centerpiece of what he's talking about in terms of 4% growth, really got, you know, a little bit of attention, but not a great deal of attention. That's really unfortunate because it is a substantive plan.
So it's communicating
and again, I would say the same of other candidates as well.
So it's the way he communicates it. I mean, look, Donald Trump just threw him under the bus when he said he's low energy, and I mean it stuck.
It did.
Yeah. Well, I think that's true. Now, I would say low energy in terms perhaps of communication, not low energy in terms of actual performance. Right. Because if you look at Jeb's record, and again, I don't want to be singing the song for Jeb and ignoring other candidates. But if you look at the record of some of the candidates, there are many very good candidates out there on the Republican side. And you look at their records. Look at what they did when they were in the governor's office. I think they've been quite successful. So, you know, Jeb certainly was not a low-energy governor of Florida. He did a lot of things there, and I think his record was very good there. I think Scott Walker, who doesn't come off as the most dynamic speaker in the world, but certainly was an aggressive governor, got recalled and did many things, some of which you might like, some of which you might not. But you'd hardly view that as a docile period in the governorship of Wisconsin. So, again, I think these are very active people. They just don't seem to have the same style in terms of rhetoric and campaigning that Mr. Trump has.
Yep.
Right. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Ed, good to talk with you. Thanks so much for joining the conversation. We so appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
See you back in California soon, Ed. Thank you.